Where are my headphones at? No, no, no.
It looks like we're just waiting on Spencer and then can't remember the other girl's name.
Danielle?
Yeah, because Carissa said that she dropped. So.
Right.
Besides Spencer? Spencer?
Yes, I added Spencer, so hopefully he should be here soon as well.
Okay, and I texted. What's her name? Let's see. Texted Danielle and haven't heard anything back from her.
Okay. Yeah, I added her in here. She sent the email with her Gmail, the Breckenridge Crew 09, I think.
Yeah.
So hopefully if she's near her computer, she'll jump in soon.
And I talked to her this weekend. She said she was sick, but was working on the assignment of question 4, but
okay.
So I'm not sure what happened there.
Well, thank you guys so much for helping out last week. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no worries.
Not a problem.
I finally found where we're supposed to read. It was kind of hard to find.
Yeah, weeks just like figure out what the class wanted.
I wish there was just like in a lot of other classes there's a information tab, and I wish they would do that in this one because then you see everything you need to read instead of having to go into it.
Yeah, I like that. I have in my insurance class at the beginning, he does a note and he's like, here's everything that you need to do for the week, here's the due dates, and you're set. So it makes it so much easier. Let's say Spencer joined us.
Hey guys.
How you doing, Spencer?
Hey, Spencer.
Good. I wasn't sure if Carolyn, if you were gonna be doing the discussion day, so I prepared for it. So hey, it doesn't matter. We're all good here.
Okay. Well, if you want to take it over, you can. If not,
no, if you do, that's fine. I'm just preparing as a backup this. So.
Okay, we want to wait a little bit and see if Danielle shows up, or go ahead and get started, and then she can just jump in. Or
let's go and get started.
Okay, yeah, it's gonna get late here before long. Okay, then seems to be doing okay on no feedback. Do we want to mute our mics if we're not the one talking, or are you guys hearing okay?
I can hear you fine.
I can hear fine, yeah.
Okay,
yeah, everything is good on my end.
All right, so we'll go ahead and start. So for this week, it was all about, just pulled up here, or the Harvard Business School, the new recruits. If you guys got a chance to read over that. So, yeah. First question, basically, imagine that we're in the position of hiring, and we want to vote on which 2 candidates each person would go for. I believe they narrowed it down to 4 in the study.
I can go first. The 2 that I would choose Natalia, and I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce the last name there. I just from like the reading at it. So I know all 4 of these were like in the maybe group. But the reason I liked her and would choose her, I liked her language skills. I think especially for a company that's looking to be small yet global, like SG Cohen is, I think that those skills would come in, really handy. And I think English, she will improve at that. That's something that she can only get better at. But those other language skills that she speaks, I think, would be especially crucial for these other emerging markets. The second one I would pick would be Martin Street. I liked him. I liked the military experience. Maybe I am a little biased for that. I come from a military family. Mostly enlisted, so no officers or anything like that. But I like the experience that he has, the leadership experience, and I feel like he kind of knows how to jump in there and to apply himself. And if the military experience shows anything, he's not afraid to get his hands dirty and really just do what it takes to get it done. So those are the two. I mean, I think I liked all of them, but those are the two that I like the most.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Spencer. Do the other guys have any particular candidates that you would go for?
I picked the same too. Yeah, I definitely really like the military experience and leadership experience. I wasn't the biggest fan of not having business experience, but I mean, if you look at all the stuff he's doing, especially running club, marathon, triathlons, very confident, articulate, that's something that's very important, especially with what they're trying to accomplish. And so I really like both of those too.
He's also getting an MBA too, so he's not a complete illiterate when it comes to finance and things. I mean, he may not have like specialized grad in it, but
Well, and I think he just has the schooling. It's not the business world experience; it's just the schooling. But I mean, still, a lot of the teachers have real world experience and will prepare you fairly well for the business world. So.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Chris, do you have anything you want to add there?
Yeah, so I differ a little bit from the other guys. Natalia was definitely one of my two, but then the other one that I was looking at would be Andy, actually, Andy Sanchez. Overall, he just looks like the kind of guy that is going to do the job well. He looks like your really outstanding sort of student, except for that GPA. And what I was thinking there is we all have had like certain semesters, I wish I could have just blot out that semester from my history sort of deal. And I'm still kind of reading through the very end of this case and such. One of my personal opinion is that, GPA doesn't necessarily define how good of a student, how much they've learned. So I really think Andy is kind of that standout candidate who does absolutely everything he can.
I agree. I think oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're good.
No, I was just going to say that I think that's definitely something to take into consideration, that your GPA, while it is a large factor, it certainly isn't the only thing to be looking at when considering recruits as well. There are definitely other factors to consider that, certain people do really well in the bubble of school, and then they get out into the real world and find out that, it can be quite different and a lot more challenging. So it's definitely something to keep in consideration.
I was going to say, when you look at his like SAT and like GMAT scores, that I think this says GMAT scores either the top or the top of, or top of those who applied. So I think that you should take that into consideration too. GPA is important, but I mean, he can actually apply what he's learned into the experience he has, and look at the test score. So those are pretty good too.
Absolutely.
So I think it kind of balances it out a little bit.
And while he was in business school, he was even still running his own business. This business had a $2 million revenue. Yeah. That's incredible to do while you're in business school.
Absolutely.
It's like IBC, except a lot more intense.
And you get to keep the money.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. That would have been nice.
Okay, so I think I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead. You guys kind of already talked about, justifying why you'd go through your candidates here. So we're going to skip down to, is there any other information that you think would be particularly useful to help make that decision that maybe either we haven't already talked about or you didn't see within the case that you would have liked to see?
I would have liked to see kind of what their hobbies are. I think it's kind of a twofold thing. One, because it kind of shows kind of their personality and kind of how they would like mesh with the culture. You know, if it's something like way out there, like that's crazy, you know, you're like, whoa, okay, you know, it just kind of gives an insight into their personal life. And it also, you know, if it's a hobby that's like really like traveling the world, for example, you know, so you're looking like, wow, you're gonna be gone a lot, you know, that I think that would also take into like a consideration for hiring recruiting purposes.
Okay.
But just an idea.
No, that's definitely something to keep in mind. You know, you certainly want to make sure you have a culture of people that can get along and interact and have that social connection as well, besides just, you know, getting the job done. I think that can certainly make a big difference. And I think that actually came up in one of the, what was it, the sexual harassment, or not sexual harassment, but the discrimination cases. The guy felt like, you know, he never connected with any of his employees. So that's certainly something to keep in mind. Anybody else have anything to add, or go ahead and move on here?
You summed it up great.
Sounds good. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the interview process here. So it seems like as we were going through the case, that the wants to talk about why there was so much disagreement between the senior bankers in the Saturday meeting about which recruits to hire. Just kind of your guys' opinion on why you think that might be the case.
Well, I think first off, one of the big reasons is because of their personalities. Some were outgoing, some of them weren't, and you can kind of tell just from that if you're going to get along with the person very well, if you're going to be able to work with them very well. So I think that's one big reason.
Absolutely. I think you can certainly tell. I've never been on the hiring end of it, but I mean, as far as being in an interview, you can certainly tell if you're clicking with the interviewer, you know, right off the bat or not. So that can definitely be taken into consideration.
Yeah, and I think some of the disagreements, I know it was like mentioned in this and some of the other reading that we did earlier this week about, again, with like kind of like the bias, like if your personality is like close to like what the person being interviewed's personality is, I feel like you're automatically going to click a little bit better. You know, and so, and, you know, everyone has different personalities. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as you fit within the culture of the company and, you know, the specific job duties that you need to do. But I think some of the disagreement is just, you know, some of the senior bankers had different personalities and the associates had different personalities than those they're interviewing with. And so that could have been a factor into, you know, some of the disagreement. Just, you know, some people you just click better with. It doesn't mean you can't get along with everybody, but, you know, some people you just naturally gravitate towards. So I think that's a cause there.
Of different goals in mind. They're each from different divisions, and there's those goals in mind that they want in an employee, and then there's also the, I guess, but how the division runs, and so they're trying to find someone that will fit in with that. The word's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't get it. But you know what I'm saying, like how everything runs, and they want someone that'll fit in there and mesh with them really well.
Oh, like their department or their field.
Yeah, no, they certainly have different, not necessarily qualities that they're looking for, but maybe slightly different skill set that they're focusing on as they're looking at each candidate. So, that makes sense. Chris, do you have anything you want to add, or?
Could you rephrase that original question for me just to make sure I answer it right?
Oh, sure. So it just wants to know that it seems like there's a large disagreement in the Saturday meeting between the different senior bankers, and just kind of getting an idea of why you think that disagreement is there.
Gotcha. Awesome. Thanks. Just wanted to make sure I heard that right.
Good.
So I do a little bit of hiring in my current job, and you know, something I found, you know, a lot like what was mentioned before is personalities. It's a really, really big factor. I mean, you don't really think it is, and you're not necessarily always looking for personality, but you know, when I interview, the biggest thing I'm looking for is fit. I could care less what the previous experience is, because I can train somebody to do what I want them to do. But you know, if they're going to work and mesh as part of the team, that's really important to me. And what everybody's looking for there is different. You know, everybody's personality is different. So, so I kind of have to echo what was said before on that.
The culture of the divisions. That's what I was looking for.
Culture.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I definitely have to agree. I think my husband and I always joke that, you know, spending all this time to get a college degree is just showing a company that I know how to learn, because they'll be able to teach me what they want to once I get there.
Pretty true.
Okay. Well, the only other thing I did want to ask about that before we move on is, do you think that any of the disagreement comes because of the type of interviews that were given?
I think so. I think kind of like, I was reading this towards like the end of the interview process. They're like, hey, I'm tired, hungry, it's snowing, whatever, you know, I want to go home. And I understand that when I hire here at work, we hire a lot every semester, and it's just towards the end of the hiring thing, you're done. You just don't want to talk anymore. You've talked to so many people, and so I think so. I think that when they try to jam it all into one day like that, it kind of changes it. If they were to like, I know they need to get through all of them too, but if they were to break it up over like 2 days, and I don't know if that's even possible because they're bringing in these outside bankers and associates and whatnot, but if they were to break it up into a little bit longer period of time, you know, maybe they could give more attention. The interviewers wouldn't be as tired or as you know, finished interviewing, so maybe it would be a little bit different experience for those that were being interviewed.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a good point. No, I definitely noticed that today. Even just, I spent most of the day playing catch up on homework, and I mean, my first assignment that I worked on versus, you know, what I was working on right before I got here, you can absolutely see the difference because you're just so done and burnt out by the end. So I think that's a valid point.
There's definitely a point of diminished returns.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Unless anybody else has anything else they kind of want to add on that as far as the interview process, I'll go ahead and move forward with that. Okay.
I'm good.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Okay. Let's see. So I guess kind of jumping off of that about the types of interviews, they had the question of, might there be better ways to learn about the candidates than the traditional interviews, and if so, what might those be?
I think, I guess, putting them to work a little bit, like letting them test out the system and like do a little bit of work and see how they work and how their thought process is.
Okay, so a little bit of a trial period there.
Yeah, well, like, I mean, my last interview, I came in and for about an hour we sat down, we talked about what was going on in the company and like what I would be doing, and then we probably like half the time, and I was actually doing things I would be doing. She was coaching me and helping me, but I was going through the thought process of what I would be doing.
Okay.
Really good part of the interview.
And that's definitely a great idea to really see how they can utilize their skill sets in regards to what it is that you're going to be having them do. Any other ideas or thoughts on that?
Yeah. One thing I was thinking is that if you put all the applicants together in a single pool, like in a group actually, and have them work together, solving a problem, that can tell you a lot about the group that you're interviewing with. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, these guys, they want active energy, go-getters, people that, may not necessarily dominate the room, but would definitely be energetic and help it move along. And that would, you can kind of gauge how people work together, and especially, see how they, when they're working with fellow applicants, that'll tell you a lot about a person when they're working with people that they're going up for a job against.
Right.
So
How
just
well
a
are they
thought
able
there.
to facilitate that with someone that they're competing with?
Mhm.
Very neat. I like that idea.
I like that too. I might just implement that here. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
No problem.
I honestly hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. 'Cause like you said, it definitely shows a different side of a person when they're having to work with someone to solve a problem that one they want to excel at because they're in the interview, but at the same time they're competing with those people. So that shows quite a bit all about their personality and how they can work with others. So they're a really good idea. I like that a lot. Um, the next question here, unless you have anything else we wanted to add on that, Spencer, I don't want to
No,
cut you short.
I'm good
Okay.
here.
So it says, what are the criteria for choosing candidates at SG Cohen? Or I guess criteria that you saw as you were reading through, that you picked up on. And if you guys feel like you didn't see much, that's fine too. I know for me, I feel like there wasn't really specific criteria listed as I was reading through it. So, like I said,
And I think that's one issue as well. They didn't have like, okay, they didn't go into it being like, okay, this is the kind of person that we want. It was just more of whatever they felt. Which, if there's a check, I mean, I understand why. Like, if there's a checklist, just checking the boxes, and you don't think outside of it. But on the other hand, it's a good thing to have. And I don't think they really have that hiring process down at all.
you can definitely see where a lot of the kind of disagreement and discussion comes from when you start actually. It's funny, before I got to that question, I hadn't even thought about the fact that there wasn't specific criteria, and I went back through and I was like, I couldn't find one spot where it listed off, we want them to have X, Y, and Z before they'll even be considered. And I don't know if that is maybe that, those resumes are already looked through thoroughly enough that they've already, by the time they get to the interview process, they've already met those qualifications, or if it's just that they don't have them set. I don't know. But it definitely felt like that was lacking when I read through it.
It was.
I think while there may not be a set criteria, I feel like they kind of already have a basic criteria. I mean, they're looking at graduate school, so that's one. They're looking for someone with the undergrad and with the, finishing up a graduate degree. They're looking, specifically, at least from those applicants that we have records of, those that are getting an MBA, right? Or some sort of finance degree. They're not looking at outside degrees, so that's kind of either I think it was a qualification or whatever. What was the other thing I was going to say? And I think sometimes by putting down like a checklist, you kind of lose sight of the, for lack of better words, the it factor. I know they said that you're looking for someone that sparkles, someone that really stands out to you. And so by having checklists, sometimes you limit yourself on what you are either asking or looking for. When you kind of open it up a little bit, you lose some of that guidance and maybe continuity between the interviews. But I feel like you're able to kind of flow with the pace of the interview, and you can, find someone that has that it factor, that quality that you really think is going to help your company. So, just my thoughts.
No, you make a fine point. Just kind of a quick follow-up question, Spencer, on that, because you kind of led in a little bit to the next question there. So since there isn't a very set criteria, and you were talking about, kind of having that it factor and feeling like, we've all discussed that we want the personality to fit, how would you, I guess, if you were interviewing, how would you define that it quality or, sparkle, as you said, to justify the person that you were choosing?
Good question. That's a hard one to put into words. I know everyone says when you see it, but you really do need to identify that. I understand that. I would really look for someone that has a good understanding of what the job entails. I would look for someone that's really gone above and beyond to see the specific jobs or product offerings that SG Cohen has. I don't want just general knowledge. I want knowledge. I want someone to show me they have knowledge of the specific company that they're interviewing for. I don't necessarily need a ton of experience for it because, like we've talked about, we're going to train them anyways. But I want someone that's really shown that passion, and kind of already knows what we do as a company. To me, that would cause someone to stand out or to sparkle and say, I would think, wow, they've done this much research into a company that they're applying for. How much more research would they do when I'm actually paying them to do it? So.
And then that question is kind of open to the other two as well. If you guys have anything you want to add to that, feel free.
I'm of the mentality like if you'll know it when you see it. It is really hard to put into words. But I think if you go in with a list of things that you like or you would want for the job, and then they have to have this in order to succeed in the job or to fulfill the job responsibilities. But this isn't super important. So that's kind of how I would approach the interview.
Okay. Chris, do you have anything you want to add in there?
Yeah, so one thing I was thinking of, if you look at the case at the very bottom of it, the last page, they have the evaluation form that they tried to implement and give to all the bankers for when they were evaluating all these candidates. And it's just kind of backtracking just a little bit to the last question as well.
Go ahead.
But looking for that it factor, I mean, they give you all these different categories here on the side, commitment to firm, judgment, maturity levels, interpersonal skills, leadership, technical skills, and such. And they give you 4 options to rank it by: outstanding, good, fair, unsatisfactory. You finish rating them on all those, you're expected to circle if you're going to hire them or not.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't factor down, your decisions there don't factor and funnel down into that one key decision where you're circling, I'm going to hire him or I'm not going to hire him. So I was kind of thinking and relating that to my IBC experience and some other experiences where we've done like weighted averages and such, where you assign a weight, a percentage to each of these skills and such, and then let that, assign them a multiplier and you factor it out, bring it down, and then use the same scale for everybody you're evaluating. And, I was thinking about it. Essentially, each of the bankers is going to be doing this, whether consciously or unconsciously. They're kind of rating them by these factors based on how important each factor is to them. And personal opinion, I think that's kind of what determines their it factor. Which one of these factors is most important to them? Which one of the candidates has that factor the most?
No, I think that's great. And you bring up a great way to be able to really quantify something that a lot of times people say is hard to put into words, which I definitely understand, because a lot of times some of those things you either feel like you feel it or you don't. But I think by having more of a weighted system like you're talking about, they'll be able to better describe why they're choosing that person and why they feel like, they click and that person, fits better, assign that weight to particular attributes that they're looking for. I think that's a really good idea. Put that down. Okay, moving along here. Don't want to take up too much of your guys' night. Under part 3, and it says, deciding which business schools to recruit at was controversial in this case. Why was the choice of which schools to recruit at so important to SG Cohen?
I'll jump right in there on that one. I really liked the reasoning that they used on this one, where instead of looking at the 10 biggest 10 biggest, highest rated schools, and picking out the middle, not the top, but the middle of those students, versus going slightly lower in the school pool per se, and taking the very top tier of those students. Personally, I really liked their choice to do that because you're overall, like they explained, I feel like you're getting an overall better student with, a slightly higher dedication, because there's students coming from slightly lower in the pool, but they're some of the top tier from where they're coming from. So I really like the reasoning in doing that personally.
Yeah, I'll add to that too. I like that also for the same reason. I feel like, you're getting a better quality person, that they've, even if it may not be Harvard or Stanford or something like that. You're still getting someone that has an excellent GPA, an excellent tracker, excellent dedication, and excellent work experience that could just fit, in with that. And then also, from what I've heard, I haven't personally experienced this, but heard that when companies recruit from those top 10 schools, whatever, a lot of times that those people bring with them kind of a, I don't want to say elitist attitude, but something to that effect, where they may think that they're better than their supervisor or manager because they went to Harvard or Stanford, whereas the other people, they're just as smart, just as qualified, but they may not, and they could always still do it, but they may not bring that holier than thou attitude with them. They might be more willing to work or to learn and to adapt, instead of saying, what I taught is the truth and there's nothing else. So I feel like, by picking those top students from the schools that are slightly lower, I guess, in the rankings, they're getting an overall better product and someone that's, a little bit more adaptable maybe. And it depends on the individual person.
I think having schools like that, you don't run the risk as much as somebody who's going to want to throw their degree around, kind of like you were mentioning. And another thought that came to mind, and I don't know how specific it might be in this case, but when you're looking at the very top of the top schools, I think you also have to take into account pay grades that you're looking to give, because they're you have people who are paying a certain amount for a school like Stanford, Harvard, Princeton, everything, and they might not be even looking at jobs that aren't going to be hitting a certain pay rank. So I think that's something to consider as well as a company of what are you willing to put forth on salary. So.
And just going back to like the disagreement between the bankers and the recruiting process, I think that had a lot to do with it also. I know one of the guys is like Harvard business class of '86, and so I think that affected a lot too. And well, it wasn't as good as my school, so maybe that's why I didn't want to hire someone. So just going back to that too, kind of tying that in.
Is there anything anybody else wants to add in there before I move along?
I think everyone's really excited.
Okay, so the next question here we have is Ray's core school strategy a good one or not? Just explain your thoughts on that one.
Going back to that, I think it was a good one because you don't get the people who go to Harvard, Yale, all those places that most of the time it's mom and dad and some rich money, or they grew up wealthy and kind of chip on each other a little bit. That's not always the best for a company. I think that those other schools where they have to work for it. Now, there's a lot of great students at those other colleges, but I think there's a bigger percentage of students at those other colleges that understand a little bit more about what an education's worth and are a lot more moldable, like Spencer talked about.
Have a better understanding of what it's worth to them. I agree.
Oh yeah.
Anything else to add on that one, or feel like we kind of reached a general consensus?
I think I'm good.
Sounds good. I will move right along then. So just continuing on, it said, would it make sense for the company to recruit from other graduate programs like law or technology, and why or why not?
I'll go. I say, yeah, absolutely. I know finance is what they do, but I think what the guy that's in charge of all this, he was a lawyer, and I think a lot of people, like they mentioned in there, they may be well skilled as a lawyer, but they didn't really enjoy doing that, or but I think it's also good to have that variety in there, not just finance. It might broaden their horizons to problem solving, or to offering different solutions to customers. This is investment banking, so they do need to have some sort of finance background, but I think it would just broaden how they look at customers, those kind of things, by having those different degrees. Obviously, someone with like an art degree or something that may not qualify for it, but I like the ones that gave like a law degree, technology, any sort of like CIT or anything. I think those could be very valuable assets to the company.
Absolutely. Anybody else in there? Don't want to cut anybody else off.
I feel the same. I think it makes perfect sense to, kind of poach these other graduate students from their programs. 'Cause, even if they are in the graduate program for that, it still may not be what they want. And even if it is what they think they want, there are plenty of other majors, plenty of other people with different mindsets that could excel in this particular field. I mean, they didn't mention it there, but I'd peg an econ degree or an econ master's student. They'll do well pretty much anywhere they go.
No, it's interesting. As I was reading over this, it brought to mind my dad is a lawyer, and it's funny. He said that when he first graduated from law school, he wasn't actually applying for positions as a lawyer. He wanted to go back into business. That he said that he had always viewed law school as just continuing his education and broadening his horizons, like you mentioned. And so I think you definitely have a lot of, I think people started out as an accounting major or something. And I think you certainly could get a lot of different people that definitely have the background skills needed and can bring a different viewpoint to the company.
Mm-hmm.
I think it just makes the company a little bit more diverse, and in a really good way. People coming at problems different ways, and and contributing in different ways unique to the things that they've learned in school or in experience. So, absolutely, I would say, yeah, poach away.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move on. I think we covered that pretty well. The next question here is, should SB Cohen change from the core school strategy now that it's an employer's market again? They've kind of just a little blurb on that, so they could probably go back to the top 10 schools and get top applicants now, but do you think that would be wise? Or? And I'll jump in at once. Okay.
I'm kind of undecided about that one, actually.
Okay.
They definitely could go back to the top 10 schools. They don't need hardly as many applicants. But at the same time, they're having great success where they are. Do they really want to change it up? I could see it going either way. But I'm tending to feel like, using their current strategy over going back to the top 10 schools is probably better. One, it provides for changes in the future, and two, I mean, if they were willing to do this previously, these are good applicants. So, I mean, why go back? They're people who genuinely want jobs, and aren't really flaunting, "Oh, I'm a Harvard grad, give me a job."
I would look at it from the business, like the finance side of it. That how much more is it going to cost them in recruiting? I don't know what their budget is, but are we going to just disregard the old ones, go up, how much more is it going to cost per applicant for the same quality? So I look at kind of cost versus reward there. Am I going to have to spend a whole bunch more to recruit them for the same type of candidate? Then it's kind of not worth it. You don't want to break down a hiring decision based upon finances, but I think that'd be a good way to kind of analyze it and say, what am I getting for my money here? So.
Right. A little
Absolutely.
bit of they're able to go get those candidates, but is it really needed or necessary? So it's where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And there's the other aspect where, the cost of the actual employee salaries and benefits and all that sort of stuff coming from a lower tier school, it's going to cost less to employ them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're not going to be necessarily expecting that same salary that someone from Harvard, Yale, one of those schools might come in thinking that they deserve.
And they're probably not going to have all those student loans as well, like a student from Harvard and things like that might have.
I do not envy them that.
No
Oh,
kidding.
no.
And I'll be sure to graduate without $200,000 in debt. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah.
Or more.
So real quick, and we wanted to touch on a little bit. What are some of the pros and cons of their approach to recruiting on campus?
On campus, they've really got that presence that everyone notices them. But then they see them on campus, and not a lot of people are inclined to who are on campus or just be like, I'm going to class, I don't want to talk about anything. So, at least that's how I was at BYUI. Sometimes.
I like the fact that the CEO came in. That was like, wow. I mean, if that doesn't show that a company cares or the culture is, that you can really just, mingle and greet with the CEO, more often than, just every random once in a while. To me, I was like, wow, that's so it's not just the low-level people that, are doing the interviewing and process, but, and I know they bring it in for that wow factor, but that was really what impressed me the most with their recruiting process. That once they narrowed it down, they brought the CEO in to talk to them, and, I just feel like that would definitely awe me, and, I'd say, wow, if this company, is really making the effort to recruit, it must be a good company to stick with and work for. It's just the way I would think about it.
So just kind of a quick follow-up question, I guess, based on both of your points there that you made. Andrew, you kind of talked about how a lot of times on campus, people get ignored a little bit as far as, you're busy, you're going to do your thing, you have your classes, your schedule. And so you think having that presence there was cost effective for them as far as, some of the higher ups taking time to be there if maybe they're not getting the notoriety or presence that they'd like?
I do think it was cost effective, especially where it's a massive program. A lot more people are interested in. They know what they're doing more. They kind of be like, hey, that's a company I'd want to work for. That's something that I want to do. So definitely a lot more likely to stop. It's a cost-effective thing to do.
Awesome. Thank you. Chris, do you have anything you want to add on that or jump in there?
Sure. As far as cost effectiveness goes, their approach actually sending people to campus, and not just anyone, but actual, investment bankers and associates rather than some of the HR people. I mean, these are people who are actually doing the job, so they see and know, better than anyone else what it takes to do it, what to look for in the candidates. So I think as far as it goes, it's well worth their time to send these people to campus and very cost effective because they're going to weed out a lot of the people that it could take HR a long time to do if they don't know the ins and outs of the position. So just a thought there.
I think that's a great point. Like you said, they bring a different perspective as far as they certainly know what's required of an applicant and what's going to be, how demanding the job is. They're going to be able to better understand and be able to look at that candidate and see, is this somebody that can, stand up to the pressures of this job? Because certainly there are certain demands in some jobs that are going to be a lot higher than others, and that the HR department might not understand very well. So just real quick, a couple more questions here. You guys kind of already touched on the next one about, are the associates the best people to be sending to recruits? Let's see. So what do you guys think of the self-selection process, and what types of people will most likely self-select?
If anyone remembers what that self-selection process is, please chime in. I'm drawing a blank here.
Oh, that's where those that were like really interested would like call them for like an informational interview, like a pre-interview, and they would like fly out on their own dime to like meet with them or whatnot.
Right.
I mean,
Thank you.
in a short sense, those type of people are the people that really want the job. I feel like, if someone's willing to take the time to fly out, that's kind of another reason why I picked. Actually, no, sorry, never mind. Two different thoughts there. But yeah, I think that those that really want the job, they're really energetic in it. They're willing to go above and beyond, and that's kind of shows, the level of dedication that they will have working for the company. That they're willing to fly out there, pay for it themselves. It's easy to say, hey, I'm a company, I'm going to pay to fly you out. They're going to say, hey, great, I get a free trip out even if I don't learn anything. But those that are, they can really show what they're interested in by doing that. So just as another level of dedication. But a lot of times, they are business, they're still students, and I understand this completely. I'm in the same boat. I probably don't have the funds to go travel out to New York to do that on my own dime. So, maybe it is, talking about pros and cons here, maybe it is a little bit of a con that since I can't afford to do it, now I'm excluded from that and I won't get hired because I couldn't show that I could spend money right now, so.
Might be overlooked.
Or a little more. There are farther around there. They are master students. A lot of them do have families, things like that, and so I guess a lot of times their spouse is working, so they're able to take those bigger risks. So there you go, make that trip. But I agree, if they did that with undergrads, like at BYU or any other undergraduate university, it would not turn out very well. There would not be a lot of people that would come, and mainly because of lack of funds, not from not wanting the job, but just because they can't afford to get out there. But I like it.
Right. We don't know what all their individual financial situations are. Maybe they could all do it, but I was just thinking of another reason why it would be, eliminate them from that process, but they could still be very interested and just as dedicated, if not more dedicated. But
Now you do make a good distinction versus the being in a graduate program versus undergrad, that you tend to be slightly more established, and have a little bit more security to be able to do something like that versus somebody who's an undergrad and still scraping by. So, so that was kind of the last question. And before we wrap up, I just kind of wanted to go over the Super Saturday and what the objectives of that were.
Whenever I hear Super Saturday, I think of the church activity. Every time.
Did you guys do like service projects or something that you called Super Saturday, or?
That would be like we'd get together and we'd have like a dance and like classes and things like that.
Yeah,
Where I live, there's not a lot of members out here in Arkansas.
Oh, you're not too far from me. You're a little south. I'm in Missouri.
Oh, what part?
St. Louis.
Nice.
Oh yeah, I know St. Louis really well. I had an aunt and uncle that lived in Freeport.
Okay, yeah. Technically, I'm in St. Charles, but nobody ever really knows that unless they're really familiar with the area. So I just go with St. Louis.
Yeah, I know St. Charles.
So, as far as the objectives of Super Saturday goes, essentially, as far as I see it, it's to decide who they're going to extend offers to.
Kind of that final decision-making process.
I mean, they can see. I mean, yeah, it is a really long day, but they can see how people are when they're tired and when they've had a really long day and a little stressed. I mean, that's one of the best ways to see how people are going to react.
I think especially in the field that they're in, I don't know anybody that's like, oh, investment banking. Yeah, I have really short days. That's a super easy job. That's like I feel like as far as correlating to the field, that's definitely something that's going to come up quite often.
Oh, yeah. Chris, are you taking advanced investments right now?
No. That's the one I'm not taking.
Oh, come on. That was fun. It was easy.
What class is
I
that?
don't have time.
It's advanced investments class. It's not my brother Galbraith, who's the head of the business department, but he was an investment banker on Wall Street.
Oh.
He's got a lot of really cool stories and stuff like that, and a lot of really good knowledge. And it just reminded me of that, like people in his ward that worked there. Sometimes they would just come to Sacramento and go to work. I mean,
Yeah.
it was 7 days a week. Get to work at 3 or 4 in the morning. And so it definitely, you are exhausted. So.
I got a healthcare administration major over here, so.
Fair enough.
Okay. Just want to check if there's anything else I wanted to go over before we wrap up.
Really quick, so
Oh yeah, go for it.
he said we're going to have different doohickey problems, but I looked at the ones that are due week 8, and they're the same doohickey problems. Questions?
Is it a different situation or is it the same?
Um,
I don't think it's a different situation. Let me see.
From the way I understood it when I was first reading over at the beginning of the semester, it sounded like there was going to be different problems, and then it was going to be the same questions as far as like solving those and kind of different scenarios. But I haven't looked to see if we have a new one or not yet.
Yeah, because the questions were the exact same, but I didn't get a chance to look at the case, and that might be something different.
Wouldn't surprise me if we're answering the same questions with a different case.
Yeah. Should be let me pull it up really quick.
Yeah, I just wanted to say great job, everyone, in getting that done.
It's a different one.
I know it was a lot of work and
Yeah.
finishing up there at the last minute, huh?
Yeah, good job.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I thought everything was going to get done. So.
Yeah, I had a bad feeling. I did not
Yeah,
sleep at
good
all
job.
that night. I was like, this assignment's worth a lot of points. So I kept like
Yeah.
waking up, checking Google Docs on my phone. Like, it was like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I finally was like, all right, I'm getting up, going to school.
Yeah.
Let's just get it done. I don't care who does it at this point. It just has to be done.
I feel terrible. That was definitely one of the things I woke up and, well, to be honest, this whole week has been somewhat of a blur. And I woke up and I was like,
I can imagine.
that was this day. So,
Don't worry about it. We got it
It's
done.
okay.
It's all
But
good.
yeah, no, it's the same case and same questions. I just
Okay.
found that it's the same questions.
okay. I could shoot him an email and see if that's something, because I know that he didn't add like that link till like the last couple days or something. So I don't know if it's maybe something that just needs to be updated. But if he doesn't,
Yeah.
Well, the link is there, like in week 7, and it's just the same one that the first one was. So.
okay. Yeah, I can, if he doesn't post any kind of announcement or anything within a few days, I can send him an email and see if it's what we're still supposed to be working on or if it's something different that we're missing.
Have any of you guys had communication or contact with Danielle?
Nope.
I have not, no.
Okay.
I don't know.
Because
I
I
know.
added her on.
You said that she was working on the thing, so I had assumed that you had talked to her. Oh,
But then I texted her someone else if she was going to be able to meet, but didn't hear anything from her.
Yeah, and then I emailed both her emails also on Sunday afternoon just to check also, and I still haven't heard anything back. So
Yeah, so I think that's something that we should talk to the teacher about. Be like, we're trying to do this. This is what's going on. So yeah.
Okay.
So
I will definitely make a note of that and see if I can get in contact with her. Real quick, just a couple last questions, and then I will be all done. I don't want to keep you guys for too long. Just as far as a wrap up, in your guys' opinion, what would the difference between recruiting and hiring be?
Well, as far as I see it, the difference between the two, recruiting is going out and finding yourself a candidate for the position, where hiring is that actual interview process where you're determining who of all those people you are actually going to hire, who's the best candidates, and then
I think
extending
he's
that
reading
off.
out of the dictionary. That was really good. I really like the way you put that.
That was very precise in your wording. That was
Thank you.
nice.
yeah, enough said on that. Okay.
So I think you kind of hit that one pretty good. So
It's kind of hard to differentiate those processes sometimes.
oh yeah. Just kind of last question here. So from this case, what did you guys learn about recruiting and then also about hiring as well?
I think with hiring, you need to make sure that you have clear set objectives that everyone agrees on before you start the interview process. Because if you don't, there's going to be lots of issues, arguments, and everyone needs to realize that this is for the good of the company. It's not there for their personal thing. This is for the company. So I think that's one really big thing to work on.
Anything else? Anybody else want to add before we wrap up?
Just one additional thought there. Recruiting, it's, as far as I see it after this case, it's kind of like more of a personal opinion, personal decision where you're personally picking out people who you think are good, but then hiring, you're bringing them to the company and getting everybody else's opinion on them. So, recruiting is more of an individual opinion where hiring is more of a cumulative decision.
Real quick, I had a question that kind of popped in my head as you were answering that with the distinction that you made. So do you think that it would be more important to have, I guess, the it factor that we were talking about before in the recruiting process or in the hiring?
I think in the hiring, I mean, if I had to choose one or the other, I would say the hiring process. The recruiting process is more of a quick snapshot. It's like, hey, let's talk. Whereas the hiring process is the interview where you're actually sitting down with them and you get to know them as a person, their background, and what would make a final impact on the company. Not everyone's going to make the cut for either one, but I feel like you have the ability to select a wider pool when you're recruiting, but then with the actual hiring, you're narrowing it down. That's where that it factor would really stand out to me as someone, is where I would want it. So it wouldn't hurt if they showed it in both either, but if I had to choose one or the other, I would say the hiring process.
Absolutely. I'd go with the hiring as well, because if you think about it with recruiting versus recruiting, it's not as hard to get noticed. You can make yourself shine for a couple seconds, enough to get yourself looked at. But then when it comes to hiring, that's where the job offer comes. So that's where you really need to actually stand out and have that it factor. Personal opinion.
No, I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
All right. So as far as questions for me, that's it. If you guys have anything else you want to add, feel free. Or that's kind of on a side note. If there's anything I can do next time around as far as improving or moderating it, just shoot me an email, let me know. Be more than happy to hear constructive criticism on what could be improved. But other than that, I think we're good for the night.
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
Why did nobody pick Ken Goldstein? And he was the guy with the kids.
He seemed a little too mature. Like he wanted to be in charge, and he wouldn't take not being in charge very well.
I was just curious. None of us selected him, so I was just, what did we all see in him that, we didn't like, or,
I think for me, it was not so much that there was something specifically about him that I didn't like. I think it was just the other candidates had things that stood out more to me than him. So I don't think it was a conscious choice of like, I really don't like him. More so just that the other candidates I noticed was, I think I had Andy and Martin with me too. Just like I said, certain things about them seem to stand out more.
And then just kind of a follow-up, would that be discrimination if they were to base his not offering him the position on the fact that he has kids? Oh, well, you can't make the time commitment because you have a family of obligations. Could that be considered discrimination? So that's marital status, protected status. So just food for thought there.
Yeah, I had the same kind of question as I was reviewing it. My thoughts were like Carolyn's, where I didn't necessarily make the conscious choice not to choose him, but I made the conscious choice to choose other people. But yeah, I had that same question. Would that be discrimination if they use that as a factor?
I think absolutely.
Not hiring.
They had other factors of why, but I think if that was like one of their primary factors, that's a big time trouble right there.
Definitely something to keep in mind, I guess, through the hiring process.
Definitely.
Anything else before we wrap up? Or
You did a good job
Very
today,
good.
Carolyn.
Good job.
thanks.
Definitely.
All right, I think you guys
So,
have a good week.
Spencer, you're next week?
Yep.
If everyone can try and get a hold of Danielle. Apparently she's worked anytime before 5 is good for her. So it's just trying to find out when would be a good time.
Okay.
So
Yeah, as I say, if any of you guys hear
All right.
anything, I guess just kind of add it in the group email there, because she did respond. The only time she's ever responded to me was when I asked for the Gmail addresses, and she responded back to that. But that's the only contact that I've had with her.
yeah, she was apparently sick all weekend and seemed a little upset when I asked her if she'd had a chance to work on any other questions, but I don't know. So you can never tell her text.
Yeah, if it's something that persists, it's definitely something that needs to be brought up with the professor. Okay. Well,
Awesome. We'll see you guys next week.
I think I'm all
All right.
set. If everybody else is good, I'm gonna go ahead and head out for the night.
All right.
Awesome.
It's been good, everybody.
All right.
Good night. See you guys next week.